Welcome to the eighth installment of Theory Chats, an interactive companion to the 2024 book, The Theory Story Reader for Social Studies, published with Teachers College Press. We hope this abbreviated conversation and the ones that are to follow will pique people's interest about how the book approaches, stories, and applies theory to social studies education. If it happens to do so, the volume is available at all major online retailers or by going directly to tcpress.com and searching for the title. Brett and I are also more than happy to answer any questions related to the project, so please feel free to contact us. Today's guest is Dr. Kelly Allen, who will be talking about TrapCrit, which is highlighted in her chapter.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Kelly. Would you mind introducing yourself and start by telling us a little bit about how you arrive to or depart from theory in your research and your teaching?
Yes, thank you for having me. Excited to have this conversation. I'm Kelly Allen. I'm an assistant professor of curriculum studies at Augusta University in Augusta, Georgia. For me, I was introduced to theory in grad school, and the theory that really with me the deepest are the theories that made me have language for things that I felt, but I couldn't quite put my own words around it. And it helped me make sense of who I am in this broader world that we live in a way that I hadn't yet come to realize. And so I am constantly sifting through theories that put language around lived experiences that, you experience something and it makes you feel a certain way, but you can't quite pinpoint what that feeling maybe even is or how to describe it. But you read a theory and you're like, wow, this is everything and more, than what I experienced. And so I'm constantly in search of that, right? And in many ways, that's how I come to theory and also depart from it, because in a lot of ways, I feel like sometimes theories stop short of fully encompassing the lived experiences that I and others have had.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I was just so caught up in thinking about language around lived experiences. Um, so could you tell us a little bit about TrapCrit and why TrapCrit?
Yeah. So TrapCrit is a play on words for what I call trap critical theory. And it essentially says that trap music, which is a subgenre of hip hop, s- has a story to tell, and that story has messages about people's lived experiences and how they feel, um, about their social surroundings, about who they are in the broader world. And those stories deserve to be examined and honored in the same way that we, privilege stories that are, written in old, dusty, libraries, and we are eager to sift off the dust of those stories and hold tight to them. And I say, in trap music, we should hold tight to the stories that rappers tell us in the same way, because they speak so deeply to not only who the artists themselves are, but it speaks to the lived experiences of many of our students, right? And so um, really getting us to think about whose stories have privilege in our society. And if you listen a little bit closer to stories that kind of engage in these forms of like disrespectability in a way, what might you actually learn from people that talk in divergent and disrespectable like ways, right?
Thank you so much for that response. We're such big fans of your chapter. It's really thought-provoking work. So thank you so much for that and for your response. As the book is inspired around Deleuze's suggestion of being on the lookout, something that I'm connecting to what you said about leafing through theories and filing through them. What are some ways that theory reveals itself to you in your own life, outside of the classroom or spaces where you conduct research?
Yeah. I think For me, like my first theorists were hip hop artists, right? And in my everyday life, like I still find myself gravitating towards hip hop artists as theorists. And so my coming to theory really looks like, driving to work and listening to a new album. And as I'm listening, I'm making sense of something that has happened to me, whether it's over the past year or over the past week. And I say, wow, like this is really connected to, maybe what this scholar is talking about, or this other artist, or this journalist may be talking about. And so I see it as this ever evolving conversation in my own mind between multiple different sources, many of them being hip hop artists. And saying that, no one place that I get theory from is any better than another. I've had some of my biggest breakthroughs, theoretically, when I'm deeply listening to hip hop music, right? And many people would say, like, oh, well, like, what can you actually learn? What can you take from hip hop music? And I'm like, well, everything, because it is your lived experience, right? And so I think sometimes we find theory in sometimes the most unexpected places, and maybe those unexpected places should become some of the most expected places. In it, I would argue.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. Theory is in it's in so many places. I love it. Um, Thank you again for your wonderful contribution to the project and for being so generous with your time. We hope viewers and listeners today will seek out this book in order to think more about TrapCrit, social surroundings, and ways of experiencing and making sense of the world. Theory can be found in so many places, including hip hop. We strongly encourage everyone to check out Dr. Allen's website, kellyrallen.com, where you will find references to her many publications, including Teaching for Liberation on freedom dreaming in the field of hip hop education and advancing critical praxis and pedagogy across educational settings.
Thank you so much for joining us. Until we chat again.